as well. Minister, I share what Senator O'Reilly said about the great work that civil defence does, and I also share his sense of pride in the record of civil defence over the years as a vital part of our social fabric. But I am alarmed by one thing. In 2015, the Department of Defence published a white paper on defence, and it stated that the lifeblood of civil defence is provided by some 4,000 volunteers. Right? That's 2015. The next thing that happens is that a plan is prepared about 2 years ago, called Towards Civil Defence Towards 2030, and it says 3,500. And today, Minister, you come into this House and you say almost 2,500. And let's be honest, if those figures are correct, there's been a sharp decline in volunteering for civil defence. And that's an awful pity. And, you know, there is a strategy towards 2030 for civil defence. But if the situation is that the number has gone down, of volunteers has gone down from 4,000 in 2015 to 3,500 on the website to almost 2,500 now, there is a problem. And by the way, it's not just a problem with civil defence. It's a problem right across the board in this country. The Garda Reserve was established with some difficulty and political difficulty, and it aimed to have 1,200 members, and I think it was there or thereabouts. It's been allowed almost completely to collapse, so that the 1,200 members are now down around 300 odd members now. And those 300 members, there's been absolutely no significant recruitment over the years. And the situation is that the Garda Reserve, the members in it are getting older, they're coming towards their age limit, they are leaving with a sense, I'm sorry to say this, they're leaving with a sense of sadness and futility that they volunteered to become part of what was to be a valuable part of the policing service on a voluntary basis. And unfortunately, the whole system was allowed to atrophy for a number of reasons that I've spoken about in this House before. And again, there's a strategy document for the Garda Reserve. So you can have strategy documents, you can have white papers, but the point is, are you doing the recruitment? And the Department of Defence itself, Senator Lisa Chambers and myself, at different times served in the FCA, the Reserve Defence. It's dwindling all the time. It's atrophying. So volunteerism in 3 branches of our national services is a thing that's in decline, and in serious decline. And I don't know why that is the case. Maybe it's different social attitudes, but I also think it's different departmental attitudes. You know, I looked at the document Towards 2030, which is the current strategy for civil defence. I don't see anything in it about numbers. I see nothing in it about numbers. And if civil defence is distributed across 35 local authority nodes, and it's 2,500 or 3,500, whichever it may be, it means that in most local authority areas, you're dealing with an average of 100 members. And that's a low figure, and it's a threshold, if we fall below it, that you know, it'll become more and more difficult to keep up morale and to do all the things that Senator O'Reilly was mentioning, from flag kills to rescue to pandemic duties to assistance in mass vaccination programs, all of those huge things, not to mention other emergency services which are supplied by the civil defence. But I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, and I do believe that this bill is necessary, and there's nothing wrong with updating the legislation. But let's call a spade a spade. We are talking about a situation in which the civil defence is, on the face of documents published by the department, in decline, and that should not be. You know, the Department of Defence itself should recognise that the defence, even the permanent defence forces, are in a state of decline. Numbers are falling. Recruitment is difficult. Soldiers, I saw in the papers the other day that what used to be called married quarters in barracks are mainly not used anymore because they've been phased out as a policy matter, and a lot of them are unusable for lack of maintenance. But you know, if being a soldier in our army is a career, it has to be paid well. If being a sailor in the Navy is a career, it has to be paid well. And we can't go on as we are, allowing our defence budget to be as small as it is. We need, unfortunately, to invest far, far more. We need to buy those 2 transport aircraft that Deputy Cottle-Berry has been speaking about, because we aren't in a position to evacuate people, to move logistically any significant amount of material from anywhere in the world without the assistance of others. We need a defence force which is capable of dealing with security situations which could yet still re-emerge in Ireland, or which could come from outside Ireland, that we don't even spend much time worrying about. And I'm just making the point here today that if volunteerism is important, let's do something about it. I brought over the media in Ireland to Chester in England to see how the special constables, their Garda Reserve, operates. And they were a bit surprised when one woman there, they asked her the question, why are you in a special constable? And she says, I like to give something back to my community. And they asked her, what do you do normally? And she said, I'm an intensive care nurse. So, you know, the journalist's jaws dropped. There are people who want to give, and our state is not allowing them to do so adequately. So I welcome the Minister, I welcome his legislation, but I say get on with the job and make sure that the numbers volunteering right across Ireland are on the way up and not on the way down. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Erin McGrehon.